Alright guys, today I wanted to make a video about the weekend's action that I haven't already covered in the Premier League. So we'll start off with Leicester being beaten by Arsenal at home. And this was a game where Arsenal dominated. I think people expected that. But what I don't think people expected was Leicester to be quite so negative as they were, because I think they only had one shot in this game coming from Dewsbury Hall with about 20 minutes to go. And they had the lowest expected goals tally in the history of expected goals in the Premier League, I believe. They had 0.01 xG, which is not a lot, let's put it that way. That they just decided, right, we're going to try and just defend, and if we get an opportunity to counter-attack, we will give it a go. But that opportunity very rarely came. The only real time it actually happened, Kelechi Iheanacho didn't time his run well enough and didn't get back onside and was in an offside position as the ball was played. So I think he could have done better there, but he did put it in the back of the net. It was Arsenal who took the lead initially through Leandro Trossard. It was a brilliant strike, but it was rightfully disallowed because Ben White can't do what he's done. That Danny Ward's making an attempt to try and punch the ball. He does punch the ball, but I think in that situation he can probably try and catch it if he has both hands available to him, but Ben White was holding on to his right hand, and you can't do that. So it was rightfully disallowed. And I think you have to say well done to the VAR official for actually being able to spot that, because it wasn't the most obvious one, because Ben White did quite well to actually hide it from the referee initially. But yeah, brilliant strike from Trossard, and it was Trossard who actually was involved in the actual winner for Arsenal from Martinelli. It was a really nice ball through to him through the legs of Harry Souttar, I think it was, and a tidy finish from Martinelli as well. It did look as though initially that he was in a bit of trouble with an injury potentially after Ndidi caught him as he tried to close him down after the ball had gone in. It was unintentional from Ndidi completely, but it did look a bit scary for Arsenal fans initially. But thankfully for them, he is okay, it looks like. Well, he managed to finish the game, didn't he, I think, unless he got sucked off towards the end. But yeah, Arsenal never looked out of control in this game. That they were constantly trying to push for a second. Leicester did defend well, to be fair to them. It's just the game plan was, built on them taking their chance when they got it, and they never really got many chances to get forward, because Arsenal did set themselves up really well defensively to sort of be able to defend against any sort of attack that Leicester could get forward with. But I think Leicester were massively missing James Maddison in this game. I think this season for Leicester, their record with and without Maddison is ridiculous, really. They average something like 1.8 goals per game when he is playing, and about half of that when he isn't playing. So, he makes a huge difference when he's on the pitch. So that he was definitely a big miss for them in this game. But Arsenal, they did keep pushing forward and nearly got second on a couple of occasions. But they did have the ball in the back of the net from Bukayo Saka when Martinelli squared it to him, but it was correctly disallowed for offside. And yeah, Arsenal just showed their class once again, and that they were the better side in this game and fully deserved the victory in the end. And yeah, they've extended their gap. Well, not extended it, but they've kept the gap. They extended it briefly before Man City beat Bournemouth in the game afterwards. But yeah, they've managed to keep the gap in what could have been a difficult fixture, because Leicester, before last week against Man United, they had picked up a couple of good wins against Aston Villa and Tottenham, I think, scoring 4 goals in both games. They're a team that aren't in bad form before this one. And then the second game I wanted to cover today was indeed Bournemouth versus Man City. Now, I think Bournemouth going into this game decided that they were going to go for a similar system to what Nottingham Forest had some success with against Man City last week in their 1-1 draw. But I think Bournemouth decided we're going to try and push forward a little bit more, because from Forest last week they left it very late to try and attack and get forwards, and they did get their goal at the end. But I think also Forest managed to keep their heads a little bit better than Bournemouth did when they conceded the opening goal just before half time last week, because this week Bournemouth conceded first after about 20 minutes, and it was a good opening 20 minutes from Bournemouth that they got forward on a couple of occasions, and they deserved their goal in this game in the end. But the scoring was opened by Julian Alvarez, and it was a fortunate goal, because I think it's one of them where on another week Haaland's deflected shot goes over the bar rather than hitting it and falling straight to Alvarez. But from then on, I felt as though, right, this can go one or two ways. This could either be a City thrashing, or Bournemouth can, just try and keep it at 1-0 and then push a bit later on. But that wasn't the case. It was just one of them where there was a few pieces of brilliance from Ilkay Gundogan and Phil Foden, I felt, in this game. They were both involved in the first goal before Haaland's effort. And they were brilliant for the second goal, for Haaland's goal, because it's a really good cross from Gundogan. And Zamora actually does quite well to put Foden off being able to score, because if Zamora isn't there, Foden can put that in the net. But what Foden does really well is he realises that it's going to be tough for him to be able to get good contact on it or to wrap his foot around it fully to score, because Zamora has positioned himself really well. So what Foden does is he just managed to get a little nicker on it and put it across goal for an easy finish for Erling Haaland. So yeah, Foden played really well in this game, and Gundogan did too. Foden's involvement in all three of the first goals was superb. The third goal before half time came from a moment of madness, really. I think it was Philip Billing. It might have been who lost the ball. You never do anything like that against a top team like Man City. You cannot afford to play a risky crossfield ball in your own half. So a sideways ball would be a better word for it. When you can't really see who's there fully, you're sort of guessing that it's going to go to his teammate. I think it was Senesi, but it didn't reach him. Foden takes advantage, and it is a brilliant finish from Foden in the end as he is falling. Actually, he was a bit off balance, but he did really well to finish it. And yeah, that made it 3-0, and it was obviously game over at that point. City did manage to get a fourth after half time through Alvarez, but I think it went down as an own goal off Chris Mepham, actually, because it was going wide. But yeah, it's just one of them where it wasn't Bournemouth's day, but they did manage to get a consolation through Jefferson Lerma, which they definitely deserved. I think that they were unlucky in the end not to score two, to be honest, because they did get forward on quite a few occasions and cause City a lot of problems in defence. So I don't think they can feel too disheartened with this. I think they played well. It was just City took advantage of, first of all, a few moments where City got a bit of luck in this game, which they didn't get last week against Nottingham Forest, and also a couple of Bournemouth mistakes as well. So that's one thing that I think Gary O'Neill can look into, eradicating these errors that Bournemouth have been creating in this game. But yeah, other than that, it wasn't too bad from Bournemouth. And for City, they've just got to keep winning games and, try and catch up with Arsenal and do what they haven't done in recent weeks and take full advantage of when Arsenal do have the rare slip up that they have had in the past few weeks. Like, they obviously beat Arsenal, but there have been a few games where City have failed to win after Arsenal drop points to the likes of Everton and Brentford. So that's what City need to do going forward if they're to have a chance of winning the league. And then the final game I wanted to cover today was the London derby between Tottenham and Chelsea. Tottenham won 2-0 in the end. But this game, I felt as though it was another game where Chelsea dominated in the first half. I think that tends to happen with a lot with Chelsea lately. They tend to dominate the first half more so than the second, because in the second half, that's when Graham Potter makes substitutes. But I always feel as though once Potter makes those substitutes, they never really come off, because it just makes Chelsea lose any sort of attacking momentum that they managed to generate in the first half. And it's obvious that Chelsea are lacking a striker, someone to lead the line. Kai Havertz has proven time and time again that he has his good days, but he isn't consistent enough. He's a good player when he's in form, but it's two in every 5 games that he performs at the minute. And yeah, Chelsea, they got forward quite a few times in the first half, got a few shots off, but you never felt as though Tottenham were really troubled by it. I think Raheem Sterling was probably Chelsea's main man in this game, the one who looked like creating any sort of goal scoring opportunity. I think João Felix, some of his decision making when he got the ball and got into good areas was quite poor. Hakim Ziyech couldn't get involved at all. In fact, the highlight of Hakim Ziyech's games yesterday was getting sent off initially, but the referee did rescind the red card and give out a yellow card instead, which was the correct decision, because in the scuffle, Ziyech didn't do anything that warrants a red card. He pushed Emerson Royal and his hand sort of slipped off Royal's shoulder, and I wouldn't say smacked him in the face, I'd say brushed him in the face. But yeah, VAR, they made a bit of a mess of it, but got to the right decision in the end. It took a lot longer to solve than it should have done, basically. But yeah, second half, Tottenham came out the quicker team, and they came the closest to scoring in the first half, despite not really dominating it. Kane came close on one occasion. Højbjerg came the closest, though, having a shot deflect off Wesley Fofana, and it nearly spun into the bottom corner but hit the post instead. And yeah, Fofana came on for what feels like the first time I've seen him play in a long time, probably 4 or 5 months, if I remember correctly. He came on for Thiago Silva, who he picked up an injury, tried to play on with it, but just clearly couldn't. So did have to get subbed off. I think if he's unavailable for the near future, I think that's a big miss for Chelsea, because he is, sort of the general of the defence, the one who organises everything, and he will definitely be a big miss. But second half, Tottenham just came out with more intensity. Had an early chance through Emerson, I think it was. It was saved, but the clearance fell to Oliver Skip, and he just wanted it more than João Felix when there was a duel between the two on the edge of the area. Skip takes a touch, strikes it. It's not the cleanest strike ever. He does slice it a little bit, but it's a good enough strike to trouble Kepa, and Kepa doesn't get a good enough hand to it and can only push it onto the underside of the bar. Made the goal look even better, if anything. And I mean, what a way for Skip to score his first ever Tottenham goal in the scenario he did. London derby ended up being the winning goal, even though Kane did add another goal to it. But what a moment for him. And he has impressed me over the past few games I have seen him. I thought Spurs were really going to struggle without Rodrigo Bentancur for the rest of the season, but Skip has shown himself in the past few games where he's been brought into the team that he might be, the better option to start for Spurs rather than Yves Bissouma or Pape Sarr for the remainder of the season. So fair play to him. And it was a brilliant goal. Spurs got a second through Kane from a corner. Once again, Chelsea didn't defend well enough and left Kane free at the back post to tap in the flicked-on header. And yeah, just not good enough defending from Chelsea, and not enough conviction going forward, to be honest. And yeah, I think they'd be stupid to sack Graham Potter, but it's going to be a tough season, isn't it? Let's be honest.